It's funny because after I looked at it, I've been preparing for this job my whole life and I didn't know about it. When I started law school, I worked at a 60-plus law clinic, which dealt with aging issues in the aging population. And then when I got out, I started working at a law firm that specialized and concentrated in probate and estate planning, which I did that for 23 years. So 23 years plus my 3 years at law school with the 60-plus clinic pretty much made me for this job. And so those are my qualifications.
Well, first, practicing for 35 years as an attorney, had gone to law school at Case Western Reserve University, graduated in 1985 from law school, undergraduate also at Case Western Reserve University. So I probably have been one of the busiest litigators in Mahoning and Trumbull County over the last 10 years. In addition to that, I have many years of public service, both as a county commissioner and then the last 21 years on the Mahoning County Educational Service Center and the Mahoning County Career and Technical Center. So it's that combination of actually having legal knowledge, very intense legal knowledge, along with my years of public service, that it becomes like, if you're going to be a judge, you have to have a sort of a decent mindset and understand that the person coming before you, particularly in probate, it gets nastier in probate than you get even fights in domestic relations court. My experience has been when someone's passed on and the family's fighting over the assets of the deceased mother or father or grandparent, it gets tough, and you have to understand that you're dealing with some really raw human emotions, and that's I think where all of my experience and the different hats that I've worn over my career come into play. In addition to that, I've also have a successful company called LightGov, and we have created the most used guardianship software in the country. It's probably in every state in America right now, where we have well over 20,000 people who are using our software. That our software was designed initially 18 to 20 years ago to combat fraud. So people who are trying to steal off of a senior or someone who's under someone else's care, we created the software to allow those people, governments, agencies, to monitor money in, money out on behalf of a guardian, and also report back to the courts or report back to the government, or report back to even a family member. So that software development has been significant. A lot of people don't know that I've been doing that, but that was my second successful technology company that I've owned, in addition to being a very busy attorney. Well, the use of, again, it would be technology, because in many ways, being able to, break away from work or break away from, oftentimes the people are out of town who are coming in to probate their relative's estate. And you can just as well do that with a Zoom hearing or a WebEx hearing as you could in person. But some of the technology that should be applied in probate courts, like I go back to the technology I was talking about that we use in Maricopa County, which is one of the largest counties in the country, in Phoenix, where the Office of Public Guardian uses our software, the software I developed, to manage the guardianships. So if you have an instance where there is somebody is in a guardianship, and the probate court's the super guardian of that person, and you're going through a pandemic, you want to have one-on-one instant information as to what type of care that person is receiving. The court relies upon the guardian to carry out the appropriate level of care. That guardian then has to check in with the nursing home or with the caregivers, et cetera, to make sure it's happening. There are ways to make that information come quicker to the court, and then through the use of technology actually be able to flag instances of when fraud is potentially happening. And that's key, to have a sort of an early warning system within the court to say, look at this expenditure on behalf of a ward just went out of the expected norms. So then the staff of the court can make inquiry to say, what's happening, come on in, don't come on in, have a Zoom conference, and let's take a look at this and see if this has become a problem.
Sure. One of the things that we're actually working on, it's not in place yet, but we've been working on, is the issuance of marriage license. That's one of my main duties that I do as a probate judge, is issue marriage license for anybody that wants to get married in Mahoning County. And so we were trying to accommodate the public, but also protect the staff and the public from coming into the courthouse. So we were trying and looking into doing online virtual marriage license application process, where my clerk would be here remotely and she would be talking on the telephone, or I'm talking on the video with a video hookup, a live video hookup with the applicants. So that's something we're working on now. Also working on now is the issuance of marriage license, to get a copy of your marriage license to prove to your employer that you were married for health insurance purposes, or to get a compliant driver's license, so they can print that off online from the comfort of your home, and you don't have to come down to the court and get it right now, or mail, get it through mail. So we're trying to do that. So those are some of the new things that are in place now. Well, our docket never got behind because of COVID. We have been working as normal. We've been open, we haven't closed. So I was proud of that. My staff has done great work there. There's always a way to get better, and with that is technology, use of more technology. But as a public servant, I also have to look at the cost associated with that. Anytime you need new technology, it's going to cost more. So I have to balance that with being fiscally responsible and still keeping up with the court docket. So I would say technology would be the best thing when funds come available, either through grants, like my Supreme Court grant that I got for the video technology, or through other innovative ways that we can come up with how to pay for it.
Well, you know, you're sort of a creature of habit, not of habit, but of statute. So streamlining it's going to be more difficult. I think allowing it to happen remotely is a way to streamline the court's docket, and also get people get them out. One of the things I've learned in my private practice, which you have to be very focused on getting your case in, taking care of the matter, finishing it, closing it out. Same thing in probate court. The longer something lingers, the worse it becomes for the litigants, you know, the people involved in the matter, because they're spending all sorts of money on attorney fees, or maybe it's appraisers or people involved in the probate court. So you want to really limit the exposure that a person has in that courtroom setting. The common sense way would be to, you know, do more of it online, actually, with the Zoom conferences. You can swear people in online. We're doing it all the time now. I've set up my conference room at my law office. It's like a mini studio, you know, because about half of my cases right now are actually online cases. And it's interesting. When I was first doing the guardianship online, this is back around the year 2000 to 2002, you know, I would be a proponent of, we can do these things remotely and software is going to be delivered in a far different way. People thought I was nuts by suggesting that everything was going to be delivered not on a disk that you're going to put into a computer, but you're going to pull it down over the internet. It turned out that's what happened, but the courts can be brought along too. But at the same time we're doing that, I also think there's a role for the probate court to play by getting information out into our community. That means directly going to the churches and to the organizations. As the judge, this is a little bit of a different position than typical judicial spots in our community, where you sit back, people come before you, make a ruling, a decision, you move on. I think there's a role for outreach with this court to inform people in our community, particularly this community, Jerry, because it's an aging population. It's also a population with less financial resources. So the potential for fraud and people wanting to take money where otherwise they didn't have money becomes greater. So the more education you can give out to the community, And I intended to do it twice a year through the churches, ask lawyers to volunteer to do advance directive wills for people on a Sunday, and do that twice a year throughout our entire county. Well, I think I just alluded to it in terms of going for an outreach. In terms of outreach, taking what you're doing and expanding the notion of what a judge does, a probate court judge, and getting that information out into the community. I'd also like to see the probate court change the method by which they appoint people to the boards and commissions and trusts throughout our community. It's a very powerful position because you see part of what they do, but a larger part of what they do, or is as important, is the individuals that are appointed to boards and commissions. I've had a lawsuit recently, which we just prevailed at the Court of Appeals, where the Mill Creek Park Board is taking property away from people, farmland. I represent one of the farmland owners who are saying, why are you doing this? Why are you taking my property, using my tax dollars to fight me to take my property away from me? Well, I think there's a role for the probate court judge when you're making appointments to these boards and commissions, in particular Mill Creek Park, to put people on those boards and commissions that have a healthy respect for the Constitution and that to keep government from overreaching. I never like it when a government says, hey, we're the government and we're here to take your property away from you. That's like a more of a subtle thing, but I think the process by which we put people onto the boards and commission needs to be opened up.
One of the ways would be name changes. Name changes have been very prevalent because of the compliant driver's license. I've actually worked on a committee with another judge down in Greene County that we've instituted legislation to try to make the name change process a little simpler for individuals that don't necessarily want to change their name as a full change, but maybe a correction, like a spelling of the first name. The BMV is requiring that name to match the birth certificate, what's going on the driver's license. So we're trying to introduce a way to make your name correction rather than doing a full name change, which saves on publication costs, which saves on a hearing date. So that legislation has been introduced and we're hoping it's going to pass here anytime shortly. Yeah, mental health. My mental health docket, because everyone is, there's nothing to do and people are stuck in the house. They have much angst because of the pandemic. So my mental health docket has gone up a lot. We're starting to see a lot more hospitalizations and that's concerning. Guardianships for my incompetent wards that are either DD or in a vulnerable state. My people can't get out and see them as frequently, or the agencies that have been caring for them aren't getting eyes on them. So I would like to get more involved in that and see more involvement in that and make sure those people are protected.
Well, the problems got worse when people were unable to visit their loved ones in a nursing home or visit their loved one who might be an adult developmentally disabled child. And the inability to interact with your relative, I mean your mother, your father, your grandparents, your daughter sometimes, the failure to interact really exacerbated the problem of getting information back to the court like, something's wrong with this person, you need to do something. So, but I think we're over that now. We're now have figured out how to do this remotely and things should be working out well.